Join me, Mark Windows, with Tony Hurst for Windows on the World live every Sunday 9 to 11 PM GMT at autonomousmedia.net. Welcome to Windows on the World. Now, even the Daily Mail is pointing out the lies on climate change, and this is getting more and more into the mainstream. We've been talking about this for many years. I'm with Piers Corbyn, and he's going to give us some updates. So, Piers, tell us what's happening.
Well, just some immediate things. Tony Abbott, former Australian Prime Minister, was speaking a few days ago at the Institute of Mechanical Engineering, and you know, spelling it out that it's basically nonsense, and that government shouldn't follow this stuff and should follow economically more intelligent paths. And although he's not still a Prime Minister, it's good that, you know, leading politicians are keeping their heads above the parapet. But the other thing that's happening right now is, of course, that the warmists have admitted they made what they call mistakes. Now, put properly, they have been committing fraud big time, and they know that. And I think their admission of mistakes and overstating the so-called effects of carbon dioxide is it's obviously an admission, but it's to cover their backs and to it's a damage limitation exercise.
Could I put this into a sort of layman's perspective, in that none of the predictions the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change have made have ever come true?
Oh, that's right. None of them have ever come true. They said
just to clarify, that's quite.
They said there'd be less snow or no snow, and there's been more snow. Everything. Just list them all, and they don't work. And the facts of the scientific examination of the data shows that carbon dioxide is an effect of changes in climate, not a cause. Now, the establishment is panicking about this in some respects, even though it has been, as we said, into the mainstream media. The Daily Mail is quite good on this, actually. Generally, it's one thing they are quite balanced on. But University College London aren't happy, are they? Because this is a major kind of hub for it. Yeah, that's right. Well, within the climate fraud operation, otherwise known as the Global Warming Truth Department, publicised by the BBC, there are those who, you know, think they better admit some stuff, and there's others who don't want any undermining at all. And University College London, of course, is one of those. And that's the same University College London which initially, well, probably accidentally, allowed an international conference of what we would call climate skeptics.
Well, this was because
they were excluded.
Yeah, one of their own professors had actually booked the room. Is that right, isn't it?
That is right.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that meeting was held in Conway Hall, and it was a very effective meeting. But, you know, within the camp, they're worried, but their main aim, whatever, is to keep the story going. Maybe the story isn't as dangerous as it was, but carry on funding, carry on increasing electricity prices and so forth. And the politicians, in the next few weeks and months, we have to show clearly that it is delusional nonsense, and if you get out of this framework, you could reduce electricity prices by a third. Now, the warmists are going to use anything they can to defend their position. And recently, of course, you've had all those tropical storms in America.
Yes.
Which have been very significant storms and a big flux of storms. However, the idea that this is a demonstration of the CO2 story is complete nonsense, because we've actually had a 12-year relative drought of these storms, i.e. less storms. Now, that completely contradicts their theory that there should be more of these storms. And if you bother to look at the actual details of when we've had lots of storms, there's a measure called the accumulated cyclonic energy of each season and so on. And if you just do the dates, you can see the separation between the dates spells out the solar-lunar theory. For example, there was a great number of storms, effective storms, in 1893 and 2004. Well, that is 111 years apart, which is exactly 5 times 22.2. 22.2 being the magnetic cycle of the sun. And there's lots of these things that turn up, the 7-year cycle of repeat of stratospheric winds and so forth, and the beat period between solar effects and lunar effects of about 58 years, give or take a few years, turns up a lot as well. So the actual data says solar lunar, not CO2.
So, sort of in conclusion for this short section, the actual consensus, the unreal consensus that we've been forced to believe through every mainstream media outlet is now coming properly apart. Would you say that?
I would say it is coming properly apart, and people, you know, in the street are starting to realise that. For example, you and I attended a number of festivals in the summer, and we had the biggest attendance at those festivals of the meetings, and we had a lot of support for the view that we support true green against fake green, and fake green is the globalist nonsense of the CO2. True green defends biodiversity.
Well, this
a lot of support for
this kind of militant, aggressive way that they dealt with it really backfired on. This is the Green Gathering, which is held in Chepstow every year, which was originally a kind of free-for-all get-together for alternatives, and of course now it still parades itself as that, but it's absolutely not. It's absolute iron fist control there, and by people who I would call change agents. Not all of them, but people get co-opted into this, and that's the danger. People get co-opted into something that they think is good. But we can report now that even the tent that we were speaking in, the touring tent of speakers, has now been banned from the next Green Gathering, not just because of us, I hope, but because they're putting out stuff that we consider to be the truth.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because we spoke at two other festivals where we got a lot of support. And the other thing which is going to change the situation is what's going to happen this Northern Hemisphere winter. Already there's record levels of ice in a number of places. Greenland ice levels are very high. Snow cover is very high. Now, this means we are going to have some very cold spells this winter, and our long-range forecast actually says when they're going to happen. And when I say we, I'm talking about Northern Hemisphere, bits of America, Europe, Britain, are going to have some extreme cold spells. And furthermore, the general increase in snow cover is a very significant sign of moving into the mini ice age, because the increased snow cover means more reflection of radiation from the sun and therefore ongoing cold.
That's very interesting, because the mini ice age theory has really changed the whole narrative in the respect that it's now climate change, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, they use the word climate change because there hasn't been any warming. They'll carry on trying to convince people that these great blasts of extreme cold we're going to have, and there's already some in America, which we predicted right now. They're going to carry on with the ridiculous argument that somehow cold means warm. Now look, this will not last long. The people saying that are committing fraud, and they know it.
Well, that happens in all parts of the media, and it's called the post-truth world. Now, just to sum up or round up this part of this show, what do you think of Al Gore's new film? Have you seen it? Because apparently he's got a new one, and to be fair, LBC have promoted it. James O'Brien has been all over it apparently, and there was no one allowed on who was saying anything against it. So basically a PR for the criminal Al Gore is going on, and he's already been discredited once. How many more times does he have to be discredited?
Indeed. Well, I've described him as the Goebbels of the 21st century. Now, I'd like people's opinions on that, because I mean, when I say the Goebbels, it doesn't mean he supports Hitler's beliefs.
No.
It means he's operated in the way of Goebbels, i.e. you take a lie and you say it louder and louder and louder, and then people will believe it. That was Goebbels' message. So it's about a method.
Well, it was something that he stated, wasn't it? He said the people will believe a big lie, and they do believe the big lie, which is the inconvenient truth, which is his film. But it's had a part two, so it'll be very interesting to see how that goes, and if we can get that one into court.
It's been a flop. I admit I haven't seen it, but the attendance at the events showings have been very low.
Well, that's really good news, isn't it?
It is very good.
It's very good news for humanity.
Bankrupt the new Goebbels, I'd say.
That's right, yes. Well, that's it from Conspiracy HQ. We'll see you soon on Windows on the World. Join me, Mark Windows, with Tony Hurst for Windows on the World live every Sunday 9 to 11 p.m. GMT at autonomousmedia.net.